Good evening, everyone. My name is Kim Hunt, and I am with Affinity Community Services. Affinity is a social justice organization that works with and on behalf of Black LGBT communities, queer youth, and allies, and we are located on the south side of Chicago. Each month, on the fourth Friday of the month, we have a show for the LGBTQ Consortium, and we're very happy to be with you here tonight. And joining us tonight on the phones, who I always forget about, is Miles Brady, who you can't see, but he's doing his thing over there. So please call in and be a part of the show. The number is 312-738-1060. And then also our guest today is Ebonie Davis, who is board president of Affinity, but her day job is working with the Illinois Department of Human Rights Institute for Training and Development, which she joined in 2013. And since that time, she has not only trained numerous individuals on various equal opportunity employment and non-discrimination trainings, but developed training materials on subjects around sexual orientation and gender identity. And she has more than 9 years at this point of experience in the nonprofit sector, securing funding, assisting with grassroots projects, lobbying, attacking social justice issues, advocacy, and legislation. And I'm thrilled to finally have Ebonie on the show. As I said, she's been with Affinity for quite a few years now, and we've talked about her being on the show, and now we've finally done it. So we want to talk a little bit about both her work during her day job, but also her work with Affinity and the things that Affinity is doing. So welcome to the show, Ebonie.
Thank you.
So let's get started. Why don't you tell the viewers about what the Illinois Department of Human Rights does and your role in the department?
Okay. Well, thank you for having me, Kim. The Illinois Department of Human Rights is a regulatory agency that secures for all individuals in the state of Illinois freedom from discrimination, in addition to promoting and establishing equal opportunity and affirmative action for this state and the residents of the state of Illinois. In my role at the department, I am in the, as Kim stated, the Institute for Training and Development. So I serve as a certified instructor facilitator, training individuals throughout the state of Illinois of their obligations and responsibilities under the Illinois Human Rights Act, in addition to providing soft skills that will enable them and aid them in their everyday work lives.
That sounds like a lot.
It can be a lot, but I have a wonderful team that I work with. My manager and my colleagues are great.
We are barely into the show, and we already have a caller. So let's take the caller. Hi, you're on the air.
Well, I tell you, one of the worst places there is, the city, when it comes to people with disabilities, they have a terrible record. And I can name you one place right now, and I'm going to call them right out if you don't mind, miss. And then if you don't believe me, go by and check for yourself. Kennedy King College, that was built back in 2008. If you walk up there to Kennedy King College, I'm talking about none of those doors that they have for people for wheelchairs, none of those doors work. And a lot of the elevators in the buildings does not work. And then they have adaptive technology, what they call JAWS or Zoom text. They're supposed to have that for people with vision impairment. Guess what? They don't. If you're totally blind, how the heck is large size keys going to help you? And they don't have JAWS. And I'm just telling it like it is, you know. And the city's allowed to get away with in terms of discrimination.
So thank you so much for calling in. You've given us a lot to talk about, and you're kind of actually helping to segue into the next section. So we're going to address that off the air, okay? But keep watching. So
Thank you.
that's the caller brought up a lot of really important issues, and kind of dovetails right into what we were going to talk about next, which is actually what types of information or protections, if you will, are in the Illinois Human Rights Act. If you can address those now.
Okay. So as I stated earlier, the Department of Human Rights is a regulatory agency, and we administer and uphold the Illinois Human Rights Act, which prohibits discrimination in the areas of employment, public accommodation, financial credit, and real estate transactions, on the basis of an individual's age, race, religion, sex, including sexual harassment, sexual orientation, including gender identity, national origin, unfavorable discharge from the military, an individual's military status, and marital status. This is not, trust me, all encompassing. We do cover a multitude of things, but that's basically what we do. We uphold and enforce the Illinois Human Rights Act.
And what the caller is mentioning probably falls under public accommodations, but may not be within. Is that within the Illinois Human Rights Act? I know there's a federal law, the Americans with Disabilities Act, that would cover some of those provisions as well.
Yes, so that would fall under public accommodation, the college itself. And so what an individual would need to do is to contact the department. They could go to our website, which is www.state.il/DHR, and all of the details would be on there as to how to file a charge, who you can contact at the department to ask more questions regarding ADA and the law, and then the policy specifically to individuals at the college.
And if you didn't catch that, I know that's a lot of information, we can actually kind of help you out a little bit at Affinity if you contact us. Our phone number is on the screen, 773-324-0377, and our website is affinity95.org, where you can find the email addresses for myself and our board members, and we can help kind of funnel you to the information that you need. I know that you mentioned sexual orientation and gender identity, and for what a lot of people don't understand is that in most of the country, folks can discriminate, or it's not illegal to discriminate under state law or federal law on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. One thing that we talk about a lot at Affinity is the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, which would be a federal law that would provide those protections at the federal level. However, being in Illinois, we're one of, like I said, the few states that offers protections under both those labels and those identities. And I know that you do training in those areas. Can you talk a little bit more about that training and what kind of information you provide?
Right. So, yes, I had the privilege of developing the module, our sexual orientation module, which is entitled Out and Equal in the Workplace, Building Bridges with LGBTQI Employees. And this training is, it's almost a soft skills training that provides the basic level information for individuals who aren't aware of what the acronym itself means, because a lot of people say, what does that mean? A lot of letters, they don't know, they have difficulties. And then it goes into the changes in the law, especially in regards to individuals who are transgender, and what the law states for those individuals in the areas of employment and in the areas of public accommodation.
And you mentioned people not understanding the law. Can you talk a little bit about some of what the common misunderstandings might be regarding the Human Rights Act?
Yes. So a lot of common misunderstandings that people have about the Illinois Human Rights Act is that they think it encompasses everything. And prior to serving as a trainer in the Training Institute, I served as an investigator where I investigated cases of discrimination. And a lot of times people were under the misunderstanding that the Illinois Human Rights Act covers bullying, that the Illinois Human Rights Act covers favoritism, nepotism, disagreements that individuals have. But we have to inform people that we really cover for a lot of bases or protected statuses under Title VII, of the Civil Rights Act. And so a lot of people don't really understand that, but once they get that knowledge and understanding, then they have to see, well, am I being discriminated against? Or am I being bullied? Or does my supervisor just not like me? Or is it just a mere personality conflict? And so that's a lot of the misconceptions and the misunderstandings that people have, and they don't really understand what the Illinois Human Rights Act means.
Okay, and that's part of what the department is there to address.
Right.
Well, it looks like we have another caller. Hello?
One important thing, when you're dealing with public education places or you're dealing with like city places or county, you got to go before a certain body where they have to do an investigation, and then after the conclusion of that investigation, then you got to try to get a right to sue. It's not that easy without, you got to go through all this sort of stuff, and a lot of those places, they have pretty much what you almost want to call immunity.
Okay, we'll address that off the air, okay? Well, we won't be off the air. Let me clarify. So investigation is part of this, and can you talk a little bit about what happens after the investigation?
Right. So what happens is that the department conducts a very thorough investigation after a person files a charge alleging discrimination in the areas that I talked about and referenced earlier. And then what happens is after that investigation, hopefully there's some sort of resolution. There are times that an individual may say, well, I want to let's mediate this. So we have a mediation department that will mediate the case. And then but if that fails, then an investigation is conducted, and then a finding will be rendered upon the end of that investigation.
And that varies with each case, of course.
Right.
Okay. So a lot of what you're doing relates to a specific piece of legislation, of course, and as we can see, there's a lot of activities that fall out of that. So how does your work at the department kind of influence your work at Affinity or vice versa?
Well, it kind of parallels. They parallel with each other because, as board president of Affinity, I'm very interested in the constituency of the organization and the community, which is the LGBTQ. I always add the I. And I never want to leave the I out. But and so that work parallels because the department, enforces and administers and upholds the Illinois Human Rights Act, which protects that community. And again, that community is just one facet of what the department protects. But it parallels. So when there are changes within the law, I'm able to get a real clear understanding as to what's happening, and can inform the constituency of the things that are changing, and so we can better have an understanding as to what steps we might need to take or what steps Affinity may need to take in order to either adhere to the law or work towards making, I don't want to say making some changes, but doing whatever needs to be done at that time.
And and a lot of education too of
Right.
others about laws or changes in the law.
Right, because a lot of people don't really understand when laws are changed if you're not abreast to it, and if you're not engulfed in it on a day-to-day basis,
Right.
or a part of making policies or changing policies. You really don't know until at that
You're on
time.
the dinner table.
Right, pretty much. Yeah.
We have another caller. Hello. Hi, you're
Good
on the
evening.
air.
I'm enjoying your show.
Oh, good.
I'm enjoying your show, and I have a question for your guest. Okay. I'm a gay male. And I'm wondering, what is it that you said that you come out, you have, before whatever it is that you're doing now, you used to be an investigator. What is it that you would look for if I thought that I was being discriminated against at my employment? Before I came to you, what is it that has to happen to me that then I would come to you? Because you mentioned something about bullying, And if I thought bullying would qualify as discrimination, you said it isn't, or it's not covered up under the 1960, the city's discrimination law, right? If I got that right. My question is, what is it that has to happen to me at my job that I said, no, they can't do that, and then I come to you, and then I have a formal complaint?
I think that's a great question, and one that a lot of people will have. What constitutes enough information or action for formal complaint?
So, I want to be clear. There is a separation between bullying. Although legislation is working on anti-bullying laws, bullying right now in the state of Illinois is not illegal. Okay, but it is different than discriminating against someone based on their protected status. So you're stating that you are a gay male. I can't state what things would have to occur within the workplace in order to say, yes, that is discrimination, or yes, that is harassment. That's what an investigator would actually do. However, if you feel that it is any behavior or anything that you're experiencing within the workplace could constitute harassment or constitute discrimination, I think you definitely should go to our website. You could also call our office and ask to speak to the counselor of the day, who could further give you the information that you need. We also have an attorney of the day that could assist you as well and provide any information to you at that time. And they'll tell you as to whether or not you should file a charge. I would love to, go into more detail and answer that right now, but everything is on a case-by-case basis, and it would really take a person just sitting down and talking with them. And we also have intake investigators that will, listen to your case after you have completed the appropriate forms, and then they'll, tell you how you can proceed after that.
So look for the Illinois Department of Human Rights website, and you said counselor of the day and lawyer.
We have an attorney of the day.
Yes. And you can have at least a preliminary assessment of whether or not your case constitutes further or warrants further investigation.
Correct.
Okay. I thought we had another caller on there. It was a very popular night, apparently. We should have had you on ages ago. So we were beginning to talk a little bit about public policy as it relates to the work at Affinity and just more broadly, I think, LGBT communities. We've talked a lot on this show about continuing to do work beyond marriage equality, and with the understanding that the marriage legislation was very important, but that it's not all the work there is to do. And Affinity had a 2-day conference a couple of weeks ago called At the Intersections, gender, sexual orientation, and race in public policy. And we talked a little bit about that the last time we were on the show. Very successful event, yes. Looked at 6 public policy areas, and the goal is to use the information from some very powerful sessions to inform a public policy agenda for the organization, but there's also opportunities for many other people to be engaged in that. As we talk about all the time, it takes more than one organization or one community to move forward in terms of human rights. So what do you see, going forward with Affinity when it comes to this area of the work?
The area of public policy.
Public policy.
I see us, right now we are really in the forefront of public policy, that win that we had for marriage equality and like you said, the moving beyond marriage equality. There are so many different areas when I think about myself, I think about my own intersecting identities and the things that are very and extremely important to me that I want to focus on and make sure that the policies that are in place or the legislation that is moving forward, that it mirrors, right, my life. And so it's important, I think, for anyone who has met me and I've talked to them about Affinity. One of the things that I always talked about, and we had talked about this today, is being able to bring our voice to the table, especially and bringing our constituency's voice to the table. And so in talking in terms of public policy, having that voice and mirroring the policy and moving that work so that it reflects our ideations and our lives, because the policies that are moving forward or being developed will directly affect us. So it's not just the LGBTQI community, but all of our intersecting identities that we need to focus on. And the organization is doing that, and we will continue to move forward in that way.
Yeah, and one example that you brought up, you mentioned bullying, our anti-bullying legislation, and we were one of many members of a coalition that helped move the anti-bullying legislation, but just as importantly, I think, work on implementation of that legislation and also look for where there are gaps in public policy. But that implementation part is critical. I think a lot of times people think that after a bill has passed or after a person has been elected to office, their job is done. But this is a government of the people, by the people. And if we don't stay engaged and stay a part of that process of both holding folks accountable, but also identifying those very important issues related to our constituencies that may not be on the front burner for legislators and agency heads, then we're not really doing all the work. And that's where our constituencies, that's where anyone who watches the show and any number of people, allies, all these folks need to be involved in continuing the work after the big marches and all of that. So I just want to be clear, this is not election or bill passage and done. We have much more to do. And speaking of that, so our At the Intersections conference, which again was a couple of weeks ago, will be producing a report based on the notes and the comments that we received from individuals who attended the session. And we also want to give a special shout out to CAN TV, who came and taped our open plenary. The schedule for the airing is on our Facebook page, but we'll also have a link real soon for folks who didn't get to come to the conference or want to see it again, at least for that opening session. So I know you do a lot of training, a lot of training.
Yes.
Where will you be training next, and what kinds of things are you going to be doing going forward?
So the Training Institute, we do a lot of training. We train, we have open to the public trainings that individuals, if you go to our website, you can get a schedule of the trainings that are open to the public. Those trainings are actually free to the public. So if you're interested in attending an open to the public training, myself or my colleague conducts those trainings. We also offer HRC accredited training. So if you're in the human resources field and you need certification, or you need any type of I just lost my train of thought. But if you need,
Happens to me all the time.
but if you need credits for your
the CEUs,
the CEUs, I couldn't think of it. We also offer those trainings, and then we offer public and private sector training. So we do have the ability to go off-site. So if you're interested in having one of the trainers from the Institute come and to train your employers or your employees, we can go off-site. So the next training that I have coming up is for a state agency. So I will be on the road traveling again to conduct those trainings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, always on the go, all over the state, and doing your thing at Affinity,
Affinity,
which is
yes.
amazing.
Yes.
So for those of you for whom this applies, just want you to know that our Affinity Trailblazers will be meeting tomorrow. That's our senior group at our office at from 11 to 1, and Ebonie will be there.
I will be there.
And our senior group is for folks who are, I like to say, 60 years young. And older. And they do some great work, a lot of activities, but also are very engaged in policy and advocacy. So if folks are interested in that, we'll be having board recruitment coming up next month. And Ebonie wants to see those applications roll in. We're also going to have a book reading and writing workshop coming up in September as well. So you can check for all of that on our Facebook page and on Twitter and on our website. We encourage you to look there and give us a call or shoot us an email if you have any questions about what's going on with Affinity. So thank you so much for joining us, Ebonie, and we look forward to seeing you again. And thank you, everybody, for watching the show, and have a great weekend. And we'll see you next month.